Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy, and this is my Tuesday broadcast of Let's Talk with Tamara Shealy. And I have my special guest with me, Mr. Chris Lodgson, out in Sacramento, California.
Peace,
Hey,
peace. What's
Chris. How are
what's up?
you?
I'm great. I'm great. I am great. How are you?
I am absolutely wonderful. I am always delighted to talk to you because it's always like, unfortunately, there's too much going on the West Coast. But this
A lot.
ADOS movement, you are right there in the midst of it all. What's
Yes.
going on? I think we got to bring them up to speed. A lot of people don't even know what the ADOS movement is. I was actually out having dinner and talking to the bartender. I don't even drink, but I like sitting at the bar because of the company you tend to keep. And
Uh,
I was telling him about the ADOS movement. He had never heard of it.
right on. Yeah. A lot of people. So a lot of people don't know, what ADOS is, or some people are, pronouncing it ADOS. A lot of people don't know what it's about. So thanks for that question. It's actually really important to start with like the basics. So ADOS is an acronym, ADOS. The acronym stands for American Descendants of Slavery. So ADOS stands for American Descendants of Slavery. So at its very basic level, ADOS is an identity, right? So anyone who can trace their lineage, trace their ancestry back through the institution of slavery here in America is technically ADOS. That needs to be distinguished somewhat from what we are calling the hashtag ADOS movement. The hashtag ADOS movement is a political movement, really, that seeks to do a few things, but at its core, it seeks to demand a specific agenda with specific policy prescriptions that address accumulated losses and harm to American descendants of slavery. And we believe that there is very, very ample evidence that these harms stem from, first, the institution of slavery, the institution of Jim Crow, redlining, convict leasing, mass incarceration, immigration, and a host of other social ills, for lack of a better way to put it. So there's a distinction to be made between ADOS, which is an identity. That's anyone who can trace their ancestry back through the institution of slavery here in America. That's approximately 35 million people, 35, 40 million people. And then the hashtag ADOS movement, which is a political movement. Some people are even calling it a political advocacy movement because of the strong focus on political advocacy. But that is, at its basic level, what we're talking about when we're talking about ADOS.
And you know what, Chris, you and I have had this conversation before about how many people think that you're trolls, you're not real. This is a real movement. These people, this is some setup by the Russians. It's, all kinds of conspiracies to who the ADOS movement is and what this is all about.
Yeah, that's that's absolutely true. We came to learn pretty quickly that once you become very vocal against what the Democratic Party establishment is pushing in terms of policy or lack thereof toward ADOS, once you start being vocal and actually attempting to take power and to push and hold politicians on the left accountable, you get a very nasty, very hostile, very very bad response from the Democratic Party. And so that's what you're referring to. We've come under fire from people within the Democratic Party, people within the Democratic National Committee, within the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, what's the so-called DCCC. We've come under, and through their surrogates on MSNBC and other places, we've come under some fire from them, because apparently when ADOS, or when Black Americans stand up for themselves, it's a problem. So yes, you
hit the nail right on the head. As soon as we start to ask questions or hold people accountable inside of the Democratic Party, it is a problem. And I can tell you, I know firsthand as a candidate, for the Georgia State Senate, I can tell you that when you start, it's one thing when, you know, all of us are calling out Republicans, but I'd be damned if you call out Democrats or you hold them accountable to the same things that they say they, they hold true to. They really don't hold true to those things.
Absolutely. So, and it's, you know, the Democratic Party has been, I've been, I wouldn't say surprised, but in some ways shocked. I had never seen it up close and personal, how nasty and how, you know, how bad they get when you challenge what the Democrats are doing in an open way. So, you know, you're absolutely right. They've been creating, you know, memes and hashtags and making up all this nonsense and spreading rumors and lies, and that's not going to work. That's really not going to work. But it is something that's happening, and us as ADOS, and then those of us who are supporters and proponents of the hashtag ADOS movement, we should be ready for that. We should be ready for this kind of thing, and we should expect more of it to come as we become more and more effective. So yeah, that's what's going on in terms of the response to ADOS and to the hashtag ADOS movement from the right, or excuse me, from the left. We haven't even gotten to the right yet, right? Like we haven't even gotten to the Republicans yet. We've been primarily focused on defending ourselves against attacks from the so-called Democratic Party. So yeah, and that's it, and it's been in many ways mischaracterized in some of the social media platforms that, you know, we only hold Democratic candidates accountable. So yes, we're super focused on the Democrats because Black Americans, ADOS, have voted Democrat in pretty much, you know, every election, or overwhelmingly supported Democrats in many elections, and almost every election, you know, at the national level, at state level, local levels, for generations. We've been very loyal to the Democratic Party. Some would argue loyal to a fault. And so what we're doing now is attempting to leverage our vote and leverage our contribution and our investment in the Democratic Party by demanding a specific agenda specifically targeted to ADOS. And so that's what the hashtag ADOS movement is seeking to do on behalf of ADOS. So that's what we're doing. Oh, did I lose you? So as Tamara gets back on the video here, I think we may have lost her for a second, but she'll be right back. So as she gets herself back on, I'll continue and just talk about what the ADOS agenda is. So, you know, it's one thing to say we're holding politicians accountable, Democrats and Republicans. It's one thing to say we're holding them accountable. It's another thing to demand specific policy and a specific agenda for ADOS. And we've demanded that the politicians have one for us or endorse our agenda. And so as Tamara gets back on, what I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about what the ADOS agenda actually is, right? What are we trying to accomplish? So the thing that's catching everyone's attention is our push for reparations. So if you've been paying attention to the 2020 presidential campaign, you'll notice that there are politicians who are speaking on reparations, who are advocating for different proposals that they are calling reparations. Whether or not they are actually reparations is another question. But there are politicians now at the national level and soon to be at the local and state levels that are actively discussing reparations. That is because of the work that we've been doing, and that is because that is one of the biggest pieces of the ADOS agenda. So we're of the mind that reparations are due, they're owed, And in order to get at what many call the single greatest problem of our society right now, which is the racial wealth gap, in order to really get at that and really close that gap, you need a reparations program. And we've got a ton of data that we think backs that up. So that's the big piece on our agenda, reparations. We're considering two paths, it seems right now. The first path is through passage of HR 40, which is the Commission to Study and Develop Reparations Proposals for African Americans Act. It's been languishing in Congress pretty much every year for about 30 years now. It was originally introduced by Representative John Conyers, who's no longer a congressperson. The bill or the resolution is being pushed and being sponsored as a first sponsor by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas. We're of the mind that HR 40 needs, at a bare minimum, at first, needs to be rewritten, updated, and improved heavily. So the resolution needs to be amended, and then it needs to be passed. So that's the first path to reparations that we are advocating for. There's also another path, though, and that is the path of a president or a presidential candidate, but a president, in all likelihood, a president. Hey, Tamara.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and I've been talking ever since.
Oh, good. You know, we're having some technical difficulties. This product, y'all, this product that we use, we definitely have to get something different. But keep talking, Chris. You were right on. You were able to handle this.
Yeah. So I was just talking about. I was just going through some of the ADOS agenda, and I was on the first part, and I started with reparations because that's the biggest part of our agenda that's gotten the most attention. And so I was talking about a couple of different pathways that we're advocating for to actually make reparations happen, as soon as it can. And that first path is through updating and rewriting and then passing HR 40, which is House Resolution 40. It's called the Commission to Study and Develop Reparations for African Americans Act. It's in Congress right now. It's been languishing in Congress for about 30 years. It was in
30. Wait. 30 years. 30 years.
30. It was originally introduced in 1989, I believe, by Representative John Conyers, and it would be introduced and then go nowhere, but he would keep reintroducing it every year. And he left Congress in 2017 or 2018, and the resolution was picked up by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas, of Houston, Texas. So we're arguing
that says a lot about the work that needs to be done. It says a lot about how sometimes you just keep hammering at it, and we may not get anything done. You just keep doing it. And then you pass the baton and somebody else can carry it forward. So that says a lot. I think I'm stuck right there. But keep going.
Every year for 30 years it would be introduced, and then it would be referred to a committee, and then referred to a subcommittee, and then it would just sit. Right. So we're reinvigorating and we're reigniting the fight to pass HR 40. We just know and we just believe that there needs to be some serious revisions, some serious amendments. It needs to be updated. It's a 30-year-old bill, it's a 30-year-old resolution. So it needs to be updated, it needs to be amended and improved, and then passed. So that's the first route to what we believe will be a program of reparations. In HR 40, right now, without the revisions that we're asking for and without the changes that we're asking to be made, what the resolution would do would be to create a 13-member commission made up of about half, or a little bit more than half, of government officials, and then a little bit more than, and then a little bit less than half of people who are working on reparations, either in nonprofit organizations or who have been working on the issue for some time. So that commission would study that commission would study reparations, and then design reparations proposals. And then
and reparations, let me just to kind of get this right, because so many people that hear the word reparation, they always thinking that we want to check, there is some there's systems that need to be changed. There's a myriad of ways that we need to start addressing the issues that plague us as Black people. So this is not specifically, it is and it isn't about a check, correct?
Yeah,
correct me there.
It's both. It's, finance. So let me actually take a step back. So that would be the job of if we're going the HR 40 route, that would be the job of the commission to design. The commission would use all its resources, and in the resolution, there's $12 million allocated to the commission. I actually think that number needs to be a lot higher, but there's a certain amount of money allocated to the commission to do its work in helping to design remedies for our condition.
So step back. So $12 million to initially start. This is not all that there will be. It's just $12 million to start doing the work. The initial seed funding or.
Yeah, it would be, that's funding for the commission to start to do its work in designing the reparations program. So it's not a part of any reparations package. That $12 million. That is for the commission to actually start to do its work. And to create and design the reparations programs. So with that funding, what the commission would do would be to design reparations proposals and programs. I don't know what they would design, but I'm very confident, and we would likely exercise some influence over this process too, and over the outcome. But I'm fairly confident that within the range of remedies that any commission would recommend that Congress enact, restitution in the form of compensation would be a part of it. It wouldn't be the only thing. So we're not just talking about financial and monetary compensation. We're not just talking about that. That's going to go a long way, to be honest. And to be even more honest, a lot of what we're talking about is the experience of people working without compensation. So
let me ask you a question. So, because I think this is where I think a lot of people have questions. So with the financial component, how some people want to say we want to get a check. Would that be specific to individuals, or are you looking at like funding certain programs? And I hate to use that word programs because we've been bamboozled by that word for so damn long that I hate using that word.
We've been programmed, yes.
Like how would we take that and we would say logistically, like say there's somebody that wants to start a business. So here is, X amount of dollars that's allocated, maybe let's use that word, allocated to this person starting this business that is a part of this ADOS reparations movement. Is that something, how, am I in the ballpark? Because I think there's a lot of questions about how this money that will be actually spent.
Yeah, no, so it's a good question. You're definitely in the ballpark. The important thing to remember is that would be the job of any commission to decide, right? Like that's what their job would be. Their job would be to figure out, okay, if we're talking about, so I'm going to use Dr. Sandy Darity's some of his work. He's a research professor. He's an economist I believe at Duke, formerly of MIT, one of the two. He's been working on reparations for some time. He has a paper called 40 Acres and a Mule in the 21st Century that we rely pretty heavily on. Mm-hmm. And just and he's someone that I would imagine would be a part of any commission and that I would advocate for. But in his, understanding, he used one way of figuring out how much, the financial part would be. He basically took the present value of what 40 acres and a mule would have been valued at then, and then he just, discounted it over however many years at a certain interest rate. And then doing that, he comes to a financial or monetary number of upwards of $1 trillion in financial compensation. That would probably go to individuals. That in that scheme, that would probably go to individuals. On top of that, I would assume, and I would imagine that he would be building in, or that this commission would be building in, all types of other initiatives, whether they be around Black business, granting, whether they be around land and real estate granting, whether it be around mental health services, and whether it be, I mean, there's a number of different remedies that this commission is allowed, or would be allowed, to consider. I'm assuming, and I'll use their language there, or I'll use Dr. Darity's language. He's called it a portfolio of reparations. So it's going to be a portfolio, at least under his way of thinking, a portfolio of different initiatives, one of which will be monetary compensation. And I think that's important. And I don't think there's, I understand the hesitance to go right to that. But just to keep it 100% real, that's gotta be a part of the program too, or that's gotta be a part of the solution too.
But let me tell you why I think I struggle with that part of it. Like I'm all in, but I struggle with that part because I know that without, I love my people, but I know how we'll take that money and we'll put it right back into the economy of this society that has enslaved us. And it doesn't trickle back to where it needs to for the bigger picture. So it's like, I want to see systems change. I want equity. I actually had a Facebook post this past weekend about equality versus equity. I want to see there be equity. I don't want equality. You can't give me equality, because that we ain't gonna never be equal. I want equity. So I want to see this money go into changing these systems and giving us opportunities. I feel like this. You give us a chance. We already know what we're made of. We're gonna take it and we're gonna run with it. Most of us, the majority of us. Give us a seat at the table. Give us an opportunity. Put us in the same position at the starting line together with equity, and watch what we do with it.
No, I think you're right, and I take your point very seriously, and I think it's a good point, and I'm confident that, and not just confident, I'm not blindly confident. We will be working, and this is why the ADOS, the hashtag ADOS movement is so important in its advocacy, because we will be advocating and working to create systems just like the one you're describing, right? So it wouldn't be prudent, if you ask me, just me personally here, and it sounds like you too, it wouldn't be prudent just to write a check and then be done with it. That's not going to be the answer. One, you can't pay me enough, but two, that path is fraught with all kinds of traps. One of them you just mentioned. So we would be advocating for, however this portfolio of reparations is designed, one piece of that portfolio, yes, will include financial remediation, financial compensation, and another part, or part of that same part, would also include ways to ensure that what you're trying to prevent from happening doesn't happen. And I think that's something that's at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. I would imagine that it would be at the forefront of, of those who we advocate for to actually design the program.
Yeah. So I think it's imperative that the right people, they're a part of that commission, because I just want to see, like I said, you can't pay me for 400 years. You can't pay me for what you did to my ancestors. America could never pay me enough to say I am satisfied with what happened. Never. So I would want to see the next generations be in a better position than my generation and our generation. So whatever it looks like, that's what I'm in for, the next generation, not for mine.
Yeah, no, right on. And so that's actually one of the reasons, I think one of the really good things about the hashtag ADOS movement is that we've been very focused on the racial wealth gap, but we've been very focused on wealth and both liquid and illiquid wealth, right? So wealth that's harder to get rid of, and wealth that's easier to get rid of, right? And there's been a real focus on wealth, and I think that actually is an advantage for us in the design, in the future of any reparations program or portfolio, because we're talking about wealth, and we're not just talking about income. If you take the analogy of just a check, right, and but not just wealth. So not just wealth, but the ability to protect your wealth, right? And that's actually goes to what you were just saying, right? The ability to protect your wealth from it being easily, given away to it just being outright taken, right? And so with any financial remediation, protections for that financial remediation would be absolutely necessary. And I would imagine that would be in any proposals. One other thing I'll add is, one of the other things that some people have talked about in relation to some of the advocates who are leading advocates around the hashtag ADOS movement have talked about is creating a protected class status for ADOS, right? So that is something that I think would be considered also, and go hand in hand with the kinds of protections that we want and that I think are going to need, because you're absolutely right. We don't want, just a check to be written, then that's it, right? And then we're back in the same position, 40 years from now, right?
I don't want to see that.
No, a check is not enough. I think it has to be a part of it. Like I want to make that clear. I think that has to be a part of it, but it can't be the only part.
Yeah, we have about 2 minutes left in the broadcast, Chris. I know. I want to thank you for holding it down, because this, like I said, this platform, I'm struggling with it. I'm on the hunt for a brand new platform, because this one is so not working.
I mean, Zoom works for me too. Sometimes. So I use Zoom. I use BeLive sometimes too. And like I said before, it's show business. So
you keep it moving. I just want to thank you for being the professional that you are. You held it down while I was trying to work out the kinks behind the scenes.
Thank you. No, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. And I always look forward to these, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I think this is a really important conversation to have around HR 40. We didn't really get to the other pathway, but I think we'll continue, and we'll be able to get to that next time.
Well, I've invited you back to be my monthly guest, because I think we definitely have to stay abreast of the ADOS movement, HR 40, the traction on it. The fact that this has been in legislature for 30 years is, and then we've never talked about it until now. I think back to the 60s and the 70s where, we had the civil rights movement in the 70s. I think people, they say, got comfortable because, a lot of things just didn't happen the way they needed to after what happened in the 60s. And the 80s rolled around. We had the crack epidemic, and 90s, and then criminal, and then incarcerated us. It's like, damn, we're always under the gun, Chris. So there's so much work. But before I let you go, can you give me 30 seconds on Nipsey Hussle?
Rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. Condolences to his family. I'm in Sacramento. There are, that incident happened in LA, but I just want to express my own condolences to his family. I felt it really hard. I didn't know the brother, but I think if you're someone who either is from that environment, like a lot of us are, or you're someone who's an activist and who's actually doing stuff in their neighborhoods and their communities, I think you felt that in a special way, because the brother was both, right? The brother was coming from that environment and then doing good in his community, and so and being an activist. So I felt that really hard, but it's nothing in comparison to what his people going through. I'm glad they caught the guy who did it, or who they say did it today. But I just want to extend my condolences and extend my support.
Rest in peace, Nipsey. We're gonna continue this fight. If there's a lot of us, we don't die, we multiply. We ain't going nowhere. You can't kill us all, because we're gonna be right here in the fight. We're gonna stay in the fight, Chris. And I want to thank you for all that you're doing to make things better for Black people. And just this broadcast, I'm exclusively using it to advance in our agenda. because we don't have a space where we can have these kind of candid conversations. And I'm glad that we're on the same team.
Same here, same here. And thank you for your work, and keep it up, and we'll keep it up too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. You have a good night. I'll see you at the end of the month, or the first of next month. You'll be back in 4 weeks for sure.
Yes. Thank you again.
All right. Good night.
Bye.